So you can begin.
It's a great pleasure for me to welcome you all to the research program conducted by the Suburban Institute of Sri Lanka in association with Emerald Publishing and the Gulf Medical University UAE. This is the 11th webinar of the Writing Impactful Research Program. With a great respect, let me first welcome the main speaker of the session, Dr. Subhash Srinath, Senior Solution Consultant from the Clarivate Analytic Web of Science. Today, she is discussing on the ways and means of taking your research to the next level, which is a timely topic. With a great gratitude, let me also welcome Professor Atula Nyanapala, Dean of the Faculty of Management Studies, Suburban Institute of Sri Lanka, and Professor M.S.M. Aslam, Chairman of the Research and Publication Unit of the Faculty of Management Studies, Suburban Institute of Sri Lanka. Then, with the gratitude, let me welcome our regional coordinators of this webinar, Dr. Jayanta N. Devasiri, Senior Lecturer, Suburban Institute of Sri Lanka, Ms. Sangeeta Menon, Publishing Relationship Manager, Emerald Publishing, Professor Sudhir Rana, Gulf Medical University, and Professor Kashir Said, Gift University, Pakistan. In fact, they supported a lot in making this program a great success. Then, with the gratitude, let me also welcome Ms. Disha Lakanpal, Regional Marketing Manager, Emerald Publishing Group. Then, with a great respect, I would like to welcome all the distinguished participants from Emerald Publishing, Gulf Medical University, and the Suburban Institute of Sri Lanka. Then, with the gratitude, let me also welcome the respected audience, mainly our academic from all the universities worldwide, senior professors, senior lecturers, students, and researchers are welcome to the program for making the session lively. Further, I would like to welcome the media partners of the program, Sunday Observer and Sunday Times, Sri Lanka. At last but not least, I would like to introduce the main speaker of the program today. Dr. Subhash Srinath is a Senior Solution Consultant from the Life Sciences Scholarly Research Division at Clarivate Analytic. She completed her PhD from Texas Tech University Health Science Center, USA, and her postdoctoral training from Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, USA. A pharmacologist and toxicologist by training, she has more than 8 years of research experience in anti-cancer drug discovery and pharmacokinetics area with 25 peer-reviewed publications and more than 700 citations. Her other interests include community outreach in science education, scientific writing, and bibliometric evaluation. Thank you, Dr. Subhashree. It is over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for such a warm introduction. Just give me a moment. I hope my screen is visible to everybody.
Yes.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, so just one more time, if I can have a confirmation. I am on the presentation mode right now of my MSP PPT. I hope it is visible, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. As I said, first of all, a very warm, warm thank you to the organizers. It's indeed a pleasure to be associated with this very important and timely seminar series on how to conduct impactful research and, most importantly, how to disseminate this kind of research. I am from Clarivate. Now, you all must have heard about Clarivate Web of Science. Web of Science is the world's premium citation index, and we have been in this entire, research ecosystem. We have been associated with this research ecosystem for a very, very long time. In fact, Dr. Eugene Garfield, who is the creator of Web of Science, was the first one to propagate this idea that citation analysis, what do you mean by citation analysis? It's trying to understand the patterns between two different, sets of publications but via their citations. This can actually reveal hidden literature, that can reveal impact. So there is a lot of question, there is a lot of debate nowadays about citations and quantification of research. But even today, in order to understand the actual impact, citations still remain the only unbiased quantitative metric. Moving forward, let us try to understand how we can improve our literature search using Web of Science. That is today's, underlying discussion, point that I'm going to make today. So when you talk about taking your research to the next level, we all agree, I'm sure all of us agree, and if there is a provision to kind of have a show of hands, do let me know if you all agree with me. A good literature search is absolutely the cornerstone of doing a good research project, right? Until and unless you understand what is already done in the field, you cannot have new ideas, you cannot have novel hypotheses, right? And many a times, several of us, we can be from the hard sciences, we can be from management, we can be from humanities. The biggest problem for us is understanding what has already happened in the field, understanding the previous literature. Okay, now one approach that all of us have done, especially in the days when there were physical libraries, there are still physical libraries, but a lot of our work today we do online. But when we had physical library, when we used to use them more often than online tools, the way we would try to find relevant papers, so we identify a paper which is really of interest to us, what we would do is we would go to the reference list at the back of the paper, right? And we would just give me a moment. Okay, just give me a moment. I'll just shift the screen. Yeah, so what we would do is that we'd go to the reference list at the back of the paper of interest, and we would identify other related literature. Now in this approach, you can only find older papers, never newer ones. But let's say you have a publication that is of interest that was published in 2015. So how has the field evolved since 2015, right? If you are using free resources like Google Scholar, if you are from the biomedical sciences, you're from PubMed, you really don't have, you cannot really capture which are the most impactful papers, which are the papers which everybody has cited, which everybody is looking at. You can't find out how a particular field has evolved. A particular field has evolved. So a citation is a reference, as we have already talked about, a reference to other published materials. A citation index is a database that captures all references of items, so you can actually understand which later documents cite which earlier documents. Going forward, what this means to you, that using the citation index, you can easily find both older and newer related papers. So now I actually come to the Web of Science platform. Now that we have understood why a citation index can be very helpful to you, now the question comes, exactly what is Web of Science? We have heard a lot about it, but what exactly is Web of Science? Now the Web of Science platform is a multidisciplinary platform. So you can be from biology, you can be from physics, from engineering, from different subject areas. This is a one-stop shop for you. We index more than 34,000 plus journals across the platform, right? And all these journals are selected via a very, very stringent curation process. Now, what does that mean to you as an end user? It means that you will not be exposed to the sorry. So that means you will not really be exposed to something which is a low quality. Okay, so let's say you are looking at what you call as predatory journals. That is a big problem when you are doing your literature search on Google Scholar. How do you know that a publication that you are reading is trustworthy? Right? First of all, you cannot really order publications via their number of citations. Not all citation data is captured in these, databases. If you are on PubMed, you don't get to see any citation data. How do you know that these publications, these journals are trustworthy? They're predatory journals is a huge problem. Now, what do we mean by predatory journals? The term was coined by Dr. Jeffrey Bell from University of Colorado Health Sciences. And when he coined the term, he meant predatory journals are those journals which solicit articles, right? So when he started on with his analysis almost more than a decade ago, at that point, the pay-to-publish open access model had just started. Okay, so we all know that there are two kinds. So considering, one of our one of the partners of the seminar series is a publishing house, they will also tell you that there are two models. One is a model where the end user must pay for, accessing content. At the same time, you have a model where the author must be, the using the pay in order to publish. So you have the end user which pays to publish, or otherwise you have the author who pays to publish. Because at some point there has to be some money, something, some incentive for this entire industry to work, right? So the journals where the end user must pay, these are called as behind a paywall journal, whereas those journals where the author must be paying are known as open access. So the end user, the university, doesn't have need a subscription. Each of these models has their pros and cons, some advantages and disadvantages, right? Now, the best advantage for an open access science is that more people have access to the literature, because journals are not cheap. More people have access, but at the same time, this is a model that kind of promotes malpractices. I can publish if there is a payment involved in publishing. uh, there is nothing that is preventing the editors, if they are unscrupulous, to publish low quality articles where the peer review process is compromised. So in very simple a simple definition of a predatory journal would be typically an open access journal, right? Typically an open access journal where the peer review process and editorial integrity has been compromised. Now, why I'm talking about this in the context of a Web of Science is Web of Science, because it has an extremely stringent curation criterion, it prevents such journals from getting into the platform, getting indexed into the platform. So when you're using Web of Science as a guidebook for deciding what literature should I be reading, what are the journals that I should be following, what are the, where should I be publishing, you are preventing from yourself from falling prey to these predatory journals. I hope that makes sense. How does it, so in this context, how does Web of Science empower you, the researcher community, right? It helps you conduct an efficient scientific literature review, and you'll be seeing that a little bit later on. It helps you discover the most impactful research and emerging trends. Huge number of journals from arts, from management, from social sciences, from hard sciences, interdisciplinary research today. So if I am from the management side, I'm doing operations research, I'm also working on an algorithm. If I just have a list of, if my library just has a small bouquet of journals from management, I'll be missing out journals from computer science, etc. But those are there on Web of Science. It helps you, so we have a lot of analytics on Web of Science that help you uncover the potential collaborators. It helps you identify quality journals. You can do what is called a citation footprint analysis. of journals on Web of Science. It provides access to full text content. Very, very important. I think this is something everybody keeps on, asking us. Web of Science is great, but I need the full text. And it is, I'm sure all of us agree, it is not possible for any library to be subscribing to all, journals, right? But you will be very surprised to know, especially in today's world, with this thrust towards open access science, open science as they call it, especially in Europe, North America, a huge chunk of articles are available on the internet. The free full text is available either via the journal itself being open access, or the journal deciding that some of its older back files, older archival content can be made freely available, or because of the funding agencies mandates where the authors need to deposit their article after a certain embargo period as decided by the publisher onto a public repository. So with all these different ways of accessing, and we have an algorithm that works at the back of Web of Science and helps you provide access to full text content. We also have EndNote Online. So again, for a lot of people who don't know, EndNote Online is freely available. There is a basic version of EndNote which is freely available along with the, I am not sure if I can use the chat window. Let me just check. Do we have something where I can pen? I have a pen. I have a, okay. Okay, let me see if I can see the chat. Maybe not for now.
Ma'am,
but
you will not be able to see the chat right now. And if you're looking
okay.
for questions, we will be taking questions at the end of the session.
Okay, then I will. Yeah, thank you so much, Disha, for this. What I'll be doing is then I will be putting the links onto the chat and the question answer box at the end of the so I'll be putting a link to how you can access EndNote Online, how can you access EndNote Click. All of these are free tools. You do not
Right.
need to have a subscription in order to access them. In fact, if you all are right now on your computer system, just go to Google and just click, just type in EndNote Click. It will give you, then you go to the page. It's a simple browser plugin. Download the plugin, add it to your Google Chrome, and you will really, it basically, whatever you searches you're doing on Google, if there's a full text available, free full text available, you will search and find and save it in a virtual library for you all.
Right. So what we do is that we send out a follow-up email when we are sharing information about the next session. All the links that you send me, I'll share it with everybody who is registered for the webinar, so everyone can take advantage of it.
Oh,
So you can share it
absolutely.
with me.
Perfect.
You can share
I
it with me
will
and
send
I'll
out
share
an
it with
email to
everyone.
you. Yeah, I'll send
Yeah.
an email out to you with all this information.
Yes, I'll share everything. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you so much, Disha. Thank you. Let's talk about the functionality of how does a Web of Science, page look like. So this is where this is the page. So again, if you have a system, search system like EBSCO, etc., Web of Science can integrate. So if you notice, this is the record page. This is how the one Web of Science record will look like. Let me just go back. And if you want to see the full text, you can integrate with the publisher portal, or you can integrate with the library privileges, basically. So if your library has, subscription to that particular journal, just click on it and you get the full text. But you also have a, EndNote Click, which works in the background, that if a free full text is available, it will show it to you. Now you can also see, understand the journal quality on Web of Science. So let us talk a little bit about the journal impact factor. So the journal impact factor basically is a measure of how many citations articles in the journal get. So the idea being, the more the higher the journal impact factor is, more the number of citations the articles published in the journal are getting in a certain period of time, and thereby this journal is more impactful. And if you notice, every record on every journal article on Web of Science, every journal is given a particular subject category. Okay, so for example, this particular paper, lithium air battery, comes under these various different categories of physical chemistry, material science, nanoscience, etc. So again, a small recommendation. So when you are looking at the journal impact factor, this is for all the researchers today, just do not look at the journal impact factor as a number. So when I say, for example, in this case, Journal of Physical Chemistry Letters has an impact factor of 8.7. How do I know that this is a good impact factor or not? You can, eight does not mean anything. Okay, what is more important here is, excuse me, just give me a moment. So 8.7 by itself does not mean anything. What you must, as a researcher, focus on is this rank. So remember, different subject areas have different citation patterns. Niche subject areas, arts and humanities, they get lesser number of citations. So obviously the journals over there, those in the impact factor numbers will also be lower. So you cannot say a journal in economics with an impact factor of 3 is necessarily bad, and this one is better with 8.7. No, you cannot compare journals between different categories like this. What you can however compare is, in this particular area of physical chemistry, this journal is in the top 25%. It's a Q1, quartile 1 journal. Very important. What, I mean, as a researcher, your mandate or your aspiration should be is, I need to publish in the top 10% of journals in my subject area, or the top 25%, quartile 1 journals. Okay, do not get into comparing just absolute numbers. That does not make sense. Okay, so this is a recommendation from us at Clarivate, how to correctly interpret journal impact factors. Remember, on Web of Science, all your author addresses are indexed and searchable, so that allows you a lot of analytics to do. Okay, so if I'm doing a search on Web of Science, and I'll be showing those, what are the benefits of using Web of Science vis-a-vis using, let's say, something like Google Scholar. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. We also have to cite, this is the biggest advantage, having a citation network. If you notice, this particular paper has been cited 1200 times, and I can just click on that 1271 number to have an idea, okay, that when to have an idea that which are the papers which are citing this particular publication, and then analyze those publications to understand, okay, these are the organizations in the past 5 years, because they are all citing this particular paper, they're all working on lithium battery. So let's say this is a use case. I want to understand for collaboration, I want to find a collaborator, a potential collaborator. I want to know which are the groups in this world or maybe in my own region who are working. So on Web of Science, all you just need is just click on a country. So for example, I can say, I want to look for publication in physical chemistry for Sri Lanka. We have just simple filters. You can choose the country Sri Lanka, you can choose the subject area physical chemistry. It will give you a data set of publications where these papers are from Sri Lanka. I can say, okay, I don't want to look at review articles and original research articles. I just want to look at proceedings papers. You can do that on Web of Science. All of this will help you get a very good bird's eye view. So today, a lot of, in addition to faculty and actual, let's say, early career researchers, I'm sure there are a lot of senior stakeholders from institutions who want to have a good idea of the research evaluation process or the research, profile of the institution. This is the way you can do. Okay, you can just figure out that from your organization how many publications are there which are in the area of let's say public health, or which are in the area of economics. Going forward, as I said, you can identify collaborators using, so I have done, you can use a combination of Boolean and proximity operators. If you notice, I wanted to search for catalytic decomposition of methane. It's a very popular process. So EPR characteristics. So for example, this is a search that I have done. If you notice, Web of Science allows you to use these proximity operators. Now these proximity operators are there in several search platforms. Many of us don't know about it. When you use the near operator, what it does is that it searches for this phrase. Whenever you're searching for a phrase on Web of Science, make sure it's in quotation marks, and it is searching for this phrase and this keyword within 3 other keywords of each other. So they are in context, okay? And this is a conference article, so you can see even conferences are there, and you can use these analytics, right? You can see which are open access papers, which are the publications, which Web of Science categories, which are the organizations. Quickly identify potential collaborators in this way. Now I have used Indian Academia today just because I know this is a pan region conference, but just because I'm from India, I'm just using India. So let's say and you can do the address anything. I can do address as United Arab Emirates. I can do address as Dubai or as Abu Dhabi, or let's say I want papers which are from an institution in Riyadh. Okay, so the address, you can put the city name, you can put the country name. So I'm choosing for fuel additives, and I want to know what are the fuel additive papers from India in the subject category of green and sustainable science technology. Okay, you also see hot papers. So now this is very interesting. These are like trending, don't we have something called trending on Twitter? So hot papers are recently published papers with high number of citations. So kind of tells you what is the kind of research that is making impact right now. And you can understand. So for example, when I've done the search on biodiesel, I can see globally these are the countries which have the most number of papers in that particular area. I can choose a particular country. So I have chosen if I choose India, or maybe I can even look at the organizations, right? So when I talk about biodiesel research, these are the organizations across the globe that have a big number of papers. Let us talk a little bit about the journal selection process. We've already talked about it. Now, the journal selection process, we look at the quality criteria. Now, if you remember on Web of Science, I said that we had 20. Let me just go back to the web here. We had 21,000 journals on the core collection. So even PubMed and the regional indexes like Chinese science citation databases, etc., are available on Web of Science. For people who are from the Middle East today, we have now the Arabic citation index. That's a joint venture between the Egyptian Knowledge Bank and Clarivate, and we have created a repository of several Arab language or regional Arabic journals, okay, in different disciplines, sciences, social sciences, humanities. Now, on Web of Science core collection, we have 3 flagship indexes. So when I mean the flagship indexes, these are the indexes which have the most elite journals. So journals which come in the science citation. Let me just use my pen right now. Okay, so this is a Web of Science core collection. Okay. And if you notice the first one, emerging sources citation index, these are journals where there is no. So emerging sources, excuse me for the bad handwriting, also known as ESCI. Okay. ESCI or emerging. So these are the ones which do not have a journal impact factor. This is around 7,500 journals. These are newer journals. These are journals with more regional content. They have not yet shown a global citation impact, don't have an impact factor. But coming back to these two, Science Citation Index Expanded and Social Sciences Citation Index Expanded. This is a collection of around 9,000 500 journals. Okay. Actually, from Science Citation Index, that is 9,500 is for Science Citation Index, and Social Sciences is 3,500. So around 12,000 plus journals are there on the journal on these two index. These are the ones which have got an impact factor. Okay. Now, when a journal enters Web of Science, it has to first enter this ESCI, all the quality criteria. Once it shows citation impact, it is moved to these flagship indexes. Okay. Going forward. Oh, I need to stop the. Okay. So we have, first we look at these. So if today there are some people who are attending who are from the publishing fraternity, please look at these. These are the first things that we will look even to start the editorial evaluation. This is the triage. If a journal does not have peer review policies, contact details of the editors, etc., listed clearly, we will not even. So this is a very common question we get. The question that we get is, how do I get my journal indexed on, let's say, Web of Science? How do I do that? So first thing is your journal, make sure you have an ISSN. The journal title is unique. All information about the journal publisher is easily available publicly online. The URL is there. Content. So nowadays, having a journal which is just print, not online, is unheard of. And again, remember, your journal can be print, but it needs to have online presence. Otherwise, how do we index it on Web of Science? So that's very rare that a journal is print and it is still being considered for indexing on Web of Science today. Content access needs to be. So again, please remember, our editors look at the content from the end user's perspective. So you cannot make some extra submission to our editorial team and that information is not available to the end user. So all the content must be easily accessible. There should be a presence of peer review policy, and the contact details of the people must be very clearly out there. Now, once your journal fulfills this, it will go to our editorial team. If there is any kind of if we the deficiency in these, it will not even go for editorial evaluation. Now it goes to our editorial team. Now our editorial team is based out of London and Philadelphia. They are pretty autonomous. We do not and cannot interfere with their selection procedure. So they work very autonomously. So as somebody from the organization, if you come and talk to me and say, let us discuss what can we do, and this is something we get a lot from our prospects, prospect publisher clients, is that what do we need to do what sort of engagement do we need to get into to get our journal indexed on Web of Science? We tell them we can always guide you to the best practices that is required for a journal to be there on Web of Science, but beyond that, we cannot have an engagement whereby I make a recommendation or promote your journal. That is not allowed. That is something that we do not have control on. Okay, so that is the kind of the USP of Web of Science. We are publisher neutral. We don't have any conflict. We do not. There is no advantage for us for publishing a certain journal over another, or de-indexing or not including a journal. So for the publishers, please remember we do conduct workshops on the best practices that publishers need to follow in order to get their journal indexed. So we basically talk in detail about these inclusion criteria. We will talk about what are the things that should not be there on your Web of Science, on your web page, etc. But there is no decision influencing by us. So when you go to the quality criteria, you have scholarly. We look at the scholarly content. So let's say there are two journals. I'm giving a very, very random example. Let's say there's a journal that is 100% dedicated to the cultivation of roses. Okay, so this is this journal, Rose Cultivation. Okay, now we will look at what do, and now you have come up with another journal that talks about rose cultivation, but you are saying that I will cover only hybrid roses, no naturally occurring roses. Okay, as I'll be talking a lot about maybe how do you create these hybrid roses. Maybe I'm putting some plant molecular biology, some genes, etc. manipulation to create these multicolored roses or big roses, um, you know roses that smell in a certain way. But the point that I'm trying to make here is our editorial team will go back and understand that is there a requirement for this content, or is the earlier journal, as I said, the rose cultivation journal, is that already covering these points? If it is already covering, and this is a very niche area, and we see that and how do we look at the niche area? We are looking at how many publications from which all institutions, etc. And we said this is a very niche area, and there is no required need for there to be two journals on Web of Science which have very similar content, right? So then we look at those article titles, and abstract should be in English. Bibliographic information needs to be in the Roman script. And so for all the publishers or faculty who are who are in the charge of editorial work at journals, if you want to index your journal on Web of Science, even if it's a vernacular journal, let's say it's a journal which is there in Arabic or Sinhala, some Indian language, make sure that at least the abstract and bibliographic information is there in English. And that is true for a lot of Japanese and Chinese journals, where the abstract titles, bibliographic information of the author, affiliation is in English, and therefore they get indexed on Web of Science. Clarity of language, very important. So for all journal publishers, for editors, make sure your web page is clean, your language is not obfuscated, it is not unclear, it is written in good English. These are, if these are not there, they become a big red flag whether the journal. And again, for the end user, please note that if you see a journal which is where the web page, the language is very, how do I put it, it's not, doesn't sound right to your ears, it's not grammatically correct, it is not following standard English conventions, right? Be very wary of those kind of journals, because I can assure you a good publisher will take some time to hire an editor and clean up their journal page. Timeliness, very important. Again, this is for mostly scientific societies, for institutions that have in-house journals. Make sure timeliness, website functionality, and journal format is also very important. Presence of ethics statements. So if you want to be on Web of Science and make a good impact on our editors, be a signatory to Be a core member journal. That tells me that you are making a promise to adhere to all the editorial integrity. Make sure all the information about editors and editorial team is there. So I would highly recommend, publishers here to tell your editors that why don't you create, um, you know, or why don't you submit your institutional email ID. So always include wherever possible, please try and include the institutional email ID of editors. Again, the editorial board composition, please remember the quality of a journal is always very much dependent on the quality of the editors who are in charge of the journal. You will look at highly impactful journals like Nature, etc. They have some of the top scientists as editors. Make sure grant support details, etc. are, so be as transparent as possible in the journal. So make it a mandate that if people are getting funded from public grants, that information is there. Okay. Again, peer review is something we look at very closely. What is the information about the peer review? Is your peer review being transparently available? Okay. And is the journal needed, as I said, for literature author distribution? You will see a lot of journals which talk about uh, a lot of journals that talk about International Journal of XYZ. And then you see the author distribution, the editorial distribution is from 2 or 3 colleges or institutions regionally. That is a big red flag for our editors. If it is an international journal, then your editorial team composition, etc., should also reflect that. Okay. So once the journal fulfills these 24 different quality criteria, it enters emerging sources citation index. Remember, it has still not got an impact factor. In order to get an impact factor, you need to wait for at least 5 years to show consistent global citation impact. Once you can show that kind of citation impact, you can be moved on to a particular, flagship index. Finally, our editorial team, as I've said, no conflicts of interest. They are all Clarivate employees. None of them are in active research, though they have advanced degrees in the subject area that they are looking at. No one edits the journal, however, and they do not publish, but they have been researchers themselves also. So finally, okay, I need to erase all the points. Okay. Finally, why Web of Science? It is an integrated solution for the entire research. It helps you do research and discovery, find the most relevant information in your field of interest to generate ideas, identify potential collaborators with prolific citation records. You can track your research performance, determine the influential individuals, establish benchmarks. There is the EndNote Basic, which is there available absolutely free of cost for author, for creating formatted bibliographies. The main thing on that why you should be publishing. So even today, even if a lot of you today who are attending do not have a Web of Science subscription, we have master journalists. So if you are listening to me, just go to your Google Chrome browser, just type in Master Journalist Clarivate. That gives you a free of cost platform, absolutely free platform. You can find out whether a particular journal is included on Web of Science or not via this platform. Do use the Web of Science as a guiding principle for where you should publish I think we have talked a lot about what constitutes a predatory journal, or why you should not be publishing in a predatory journal, how to identify predatory journals. Remember, not all open access journals are predatory in nature. There are several open access journals which are very, highly regarded, right? Most publishers across the world, other than a few, most reputed publishers across the world are trying to, make their peer review process, their editorial processes, more transparent. As a researcher, it is your duty also to contribute to this process. How can you contribute? Make sure if a journal editor asks you for more information, give it. If a follow responsible citation practices. Just do not cite your friend's paper in order to there be a quid pro quo system where even however tenuous the relationship is, you are citing your friend's paper so that you can also get a citation in their paper. So follow responsible citation practices. If a particular piece of literature, is contradicting your experimental results, make sure to put that and discuss, that difference, that contradiction. So follow, as a researcher, we need to follow responsible citation practices, follow research integrity, not publish our work in these low quality journals. Make sure that we are aiming to disseminate our research publicly in a very responsible manner, not indulge in research misconduct. And for research evaluators, stakeholders, please note, as I have said, do not use the journal impact factor as a measure for understanding the productivity of a researcher. There are several. Please note, when you are using citation analysis for, on these metrics for evaluation, one metric cannot give you the whole idea. So we have this concept now that it's not a metric. You need to create a profile. The profile should include things like what has been the consistency of the researchers, publishing. Has a researcher worked with a lot of collaborations? How many first author papers? Is the researcher at a younger stage with more first author papers that progresses to a PI, progresses to a stage where the researcher now has more papers as a corresponding author, which is the PI of the project. What kind of people are citing? Who are the people who are citing these researchers' publications? All this information is available on Web Science. So when you're doing research evaluation, do not just use one metric. Just do not use H-index. Just do not use journal impact factor. Use multiple metrics to understand the quality, the impact of research. And with this, I will end my presentation and open up the floor for questions. I know there'll be a lot of questions, and I hope you can answer most of them. So I just have a request to Disha, if she can open up the question and answer.
Sure, just one moment.
Question and answers. I am stopping to share my screen so that I can look, in detail at the question and answer box.
No problem. So the first question that we have received, and I'll also request other people to send in their questions. The first question is that the selection of keywords is crucial for finding the right research papers. What are the do's that we need to follow for choosing the right keyword while searching in Google Scholars or PubMed portals?
Okay, that's a good question. So first of all, for choosing the right keywords, the first thing that I would like to say is never ever, even if you're on Google Scholar or PubMed, do not try to ask the question like a natural language query. So if my question is genetic biomarkers in Alzheimer's disease, do not write what are the genetic biomarkers in Alzheimer's disease. Okay. what is a good way to do is with this search, and unfortunately PubMed and Google Scholar are a little bit weak on this, because Web of Science allows you to do multiple searches and combine these searches. But still, on Google Scholar, what you can do is do a search on genetic biomarkers, put synonyms. So genetic, what are the different synonyms for genetic? Genetic or gene. Biomarkers would be biomarker or marker or surrogate. Endpoint. For Alzheimer's disease, you can put dementia. So the right way to do a search is use as many synonyms as possible. Take away filler words. Do not put any filler words like the, in, and, or. Okay, and use proximity operators like the one I showed you, near operator. So let me just see if I can see. So if you go to Google, Google Advanced Search has options of doing proximity searches. Okay, so Google search operators. Again, I am not able to put the link, but I'll send this link to Disha about which are the different operators. So this is a concept called as search engine optimization. Okay, so there are several special commands also available on Google Scholar, by the way. Okay, so I will send this list through Disha to all of you.
Are you trying to show something on your screen?
No.
No. Okay, wonderful. No problem. Just wanted to confirm.
Yeah, next question, please.
Yes. Now the question is that I think there is a journal that someone is trying to they saw it in the Web of Science journal list. It is in the ESCI, which is the Emerging Sources Citation Index. Now they're asking us to suggest about this journal. The name of the journal is Journal of Contemporary Issues in Business and Government.
Okay, first of all, let us go to the MJL Clarivate. I will share my screen in a moment, Disha. Just give me one moment.
Sure. No problem.
You can see my screen right now, right?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yes. So this is the MJL, Master Journalist. Can I just have again? What was it? Journal of?
Yeah, the name Journal of Contemporary Issues in Business and Government.
Let's see if it is there. Okay, so it is there. It is there in emerging side. Okay, so this is not a good journal. It is on hold. Okay, so if anybody who's asking this question, please note over here. Concerns have been raised about the quality of the content the journal is being evaluated. It can be removed from coverage. Okay, so it is on hold right now. So whoever is asking the question, if you are trying to publish in this journal, I would recommend to hold, on off from publishing, because it might get de-indexed from it. Does it answer the question, Disha?
Yes, it absolutely does. Thank you so much. Now, the next question is, I think, I think this would be a question that everybody would want to ask. They want to know, how can we get access to Scopus and Web of Science if we don't have subscriptions?
Okay, so Scopus is a competitive database. I cannot answer about that, but you can probably contact Elsevier. If you want to have access to Web of Science, as I said, the subscription based. Please remember, it's an institutional subscription, so individual subscriptions are not offered. Okay, so if your institution would like to subscribe to Web of Science, you can write into me, and I can just direct you to the right commercial.
Wonderful. Now, I think we might need a bit more explanation uh, with what has been written here, but they want to know why I cannot get any search results related to my search term refined to my country. Now, I would request this person to mention what country they are looking for, and if we need to just
Yes,
see,
absolutely.
yeah,
Because this is very unlikely that you are not
yeah,
getting. So I am on Web of Science. If somebody can just fill in, if they can just put the
right.
name of the
Just
country.
quickly,
We have
just let us
almost
know what.
200, we have almost 200 countries.
Yeah, so just want to. I'll wait for the person. I'll go to the next question, and then we can come
Yes.
back to this whenever. Oh, it's Sri
Yeah.
Lanka.
Oh, it is Sri Lanka. Sri
Yes.
Lanka is absolutely there, sir, on Web of Science. So I'm just searching on Sri Lanka with that in the address field. Search. So there are 28,000 publications from Sri Lanka on the core collection. Uh, is it something specific this person is looking for? Okay, another
No
thing that
idea.
I
I'll.
must mention over here, not all journals are there on Web of Science. This is a curated content. If a journal does not meet the criteria for Web of Science, your paper will not be shown on Web of Science. It's a journal which is, yeah. Disha, the next question, please.
Sure. So now they've given us a specific term. The term is search the term human elephant conflict.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm searching for address. Okay. Yeah. So I have 320 publications on human-elephant conflict. They come under biodiversity conservation, ecology, zoology. If you are looking for which are the universities that are working, we have papers from Save Elephants, which I think is a group, University of Oxford, Smithsonian, Kenya Wildlife Service, University of Cambridge. I can export all these records into an Excel sheet.
Right.
Let me export this record. Disha, is it okay? Can you please tell this person to share their email ID with you, and I can share this
I'll be.
entire.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, you can share this with me. I have the email ID, and I'll be able to pass this
Yeah,
on. No issues.
exactly. Okay, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. You please pass this on. So
So
I'm just going to be saving this as a Excel sheet on my desktop, and I'll just, pass it on to you. Just give me a moment.
no problem.
Okay, the next question, please.
Sure. Now, so I think this is another wide question. So they want to know what are near keywords and Boolean operators and how to use them.
Okay, what are near operators? Okay, Boolean
Yeah.
operators are and or not. When I
Yes.
talk about and, that means if I say human and elephant, I am looking for papers which are, human and elephant both. I mean, which retrieve papers with both human and elephant. Okay, so again, for all of you, you can just Google Boolean operators. But and is when you if you have done set theory in school, A union B is or, right? Where you have you are retrieving either or. So if I say human or elephant, I will have papers which will retrieve from either human or elephant, okay, which have in the manuscript. When I put the near operator, so for example, if you notice here, I don't know if human elephant conflict. So for example, let me just show you. Okay, if you notice over here, human elephant conflict is written over here as it is. But let's say I have a sentence where it is, despite a small size and high human population, Sri Lanka is for Elephas maximus. And instead of writing human elephant conflict, I would have written conflict between humans and elephants is very common in Sri Lanka. Okay, if I write it in this way, then what it means is that just searching for human elephant conflict exactly as that phrase will make me miss on that paper. So what I have done therefore is I have put a near operator. If I had not put the near operator, I could have searched for papers where human, elephant, and conflict is anywhere in the paper, and that would give me way more results, give me more noise. So near operators reduce the noise. The next question, please.
Yeah. If it's okay with you, can I? Is that okay if I present something right now? Because we do the training. I just want to show something to everyone. Is that all right?
Yes, absolutely.
I'll give the presentation rights back to you. Just 1 second.
Oh yeah.
Please let me know if everybody is able to see my screen. I just wanted to quickly explain what the Boolean operators are. When you are doing your advanced search, this is how you can identify the kind of results that you want to see. Now, an AND operator is when you are looking for, let's use the term human and elephant only. When you say human and elephant, when the terms are used in one go, that's where it's going to give you the results where both the terms are spoken about together. Now, if you look at the or, even if it's just about a human, it will show up that paper. If it is just about an elephant, it will show up the paper, and it will also show a paper that talks both about the human and elephant conflict. Now, that's what the noise that Dr. Das is talking about, that if you want to remove the noise, we should use the AND operator and the near operators. Now, the NOT operator, what it does is it will give you that you want human, but you don't want the elephant conflict out of it. So you can actually remove
so just
noise.
to add to Disha's present thing, she's searching for puppy and not kitten. So now let's say for human elephant conflict, one use case could be I want to look for human elephant conflict papers, but not papers from Sri Lanka. Okay, I want to see what are other countries. So then I can use not in the address. Okay, so once Disha sends me the presenter rights, we can do the same search. We have got 320 results, and now with this particular string, what I will do not in the address. Okay, so you can see, I think you can see my screen now, everybody.
Yes.
So I'm just going back. So as Disha showed us, let us do a not now. Not, and let us see address. Address Sri Lanka. So I'm looking for all the papers that have been published by authors in the 297. So now can you see these are the publications which are not coming from Sri Lanka. If I wanted to look, so not operators can be very helpful. I am looking for a particular area, but I don't want to see. I know that in this particular subject area, let's say University of Kelaniya from Sri Lanka has huge number of papers. They have a lot of papers on tropical medicine, parasitology, but I am doing an analysis of parasitology papers from Sri Lanka, but I don't want to know how many papers are from Kelaniya. I want to see how are other universities other than Kelaniya doing. Then I can use a not paper. That would be a use case. So Disha, this makes sense. Can we go to the next?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Now, the next question that we have is, they're asking that some publication agencies are now suggesting that you can go to other journals after a manuscript has been rejected, by maybe one publisher. What is the guarantee or assurance that or the chances that it will get published in a new journal?
Can you just repeat the question?
Sure. The person is asking that now publishing agencies are suggesting that if a manuscript has got rejected in a particular journal, you can always
Mhm.
go and submit it in another journal. They're wanting to know what is the guarantee or assurance that their publication is going to happen. If it's been rejected once, maybe it can reject even more times. Now, I can ask other people in the panel to also take the question because this is regarding publication. So if anybody else wants to take the question, please go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, to
Uh,
give the Web of Science, perspective, I would say, uh, and I'd request Sangeeta to give her inputs also. Our perspective is that Web of Science has several analytics that allows you to understand, what is the likelihood of your publication getting accepted. So some of the likelihoods would be, for example, if your institution has previously published in a similar journal, right? So the editors and the peer reviewers are cognizant of the work of your institution or geography. That is one thing. Okay, so let me give an example. This is Journal X, and you are from, and I am from India, and in this Journal X, there has hardly been any Indian contribution. I look at the editorial board. There are no Indian editors. I also look at other, metrics, and I don't really see Indian authors contributing. So this tells me that it will be difficult. Nobody can say your paper will be or manuscript can get rejected, but it might be difficult. So here you can, as from the Web of Science perspective, you'll say, why don't you include a collaborator from an institution that has a past history of publishing in that journal to add more scientific credibility and heft to your paper? That's pretty much what is done, accepted practice. We are not promoting guest authorship, but you can always have a collaborator from an institution. So let's say this Journal X, you have a lot of collaborative people from Chinese Academy of Sciences publishing that. And if you have a collaborator from Chinese Academy of Sciences who has helped in project discussions, who has helped you understand what's the right, way to go about that, that person is a legitimate, candidate for getting an authorship, and thereby your paper's scientific heft is increased. Next is looking at the last 2 years, papers which have driven the impact for that journal. Try to see whether your manuscript matches the overarching theme. Sometimes editors just reject their manuscript because it doesn't fit into the theme, of the journal. Like, let's say most articles in that journal require some animal studies or human studies. Your paper has only in vitro studies; it doesn't have anything. So obviously, your chances of getting, rejected are way higher. So these would be a Web of Science perspective, but I think the best person to talk about this are the actual publishers. And what can you do? Yeah, over to you, Sangeeta.
Thank you so much. So just to help you understand, there are a lot of reasons why a paper can be rejected by a journal. Sometimes they don't have the bandwidth to process another paper for a long time, and they don't want that delay for the author. So the best way to go forward is to cascade the paper to a journal that is on similar subject. So now the purpose is to help the author, save them time, because you know that these are related journals, but then it doesn't guarantee publication even in that case, because ultimately the decision of whether the paper can be included or can be accepted lies with the editor of the journal to whom the paper has been referred. So there's no guarantee, but it's just a process to help narrow down the timeline. So for example, if journal A rejects a paper or they're not able to include it and say, why don't you submit to journal B? In that case, at least the journal B's editor, if the system is in place from the publisher side, the editor of journal B has an understanding that it's quite possible it's a good paper, but it's not suitable for journal A, or journal A is not able to accept it at this point of time. So they will definitely revisit the paper, they will go through it and then take a decision. But there is no guarantee even in that case. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. It's okay to go to the next question?
Yes, Disha, I think we
Yes,
should proceed.
absolutely. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay. So the next question is that does Web of Science have the ability to predict future research direction considering the study area?
Well, yes. So if you see a particular, so that's why we have the hot papers. So when you see a particular paper, a particular area, certain keywords getting more traction, that could be considered as a, area where the scientific community is, interested in. We do have a sister database called Essential Science Indicators that does something called as research fronts. Okay, so what research fronts does is it looks at citation clusters and tries to give you a list of very correlated and closely associated scientific terms which are being seen in the most highly cited papers of a particular area. So in, let's say, in organic chemistry, these particular reaction terms are coming up in the most highly cited papers in the last 2 years. So I can predict that this is where the research is happening, or this is where people are looking at, this is where the direction is. But there is no AI algorithm to just kind of pop up and say, okay, this is where the research is going, this is where you want me to. No. But there is some amount of assistance which is there, which is left to your discretion and next question.
Right. Right. So the next question is, again, someone wants to check a title, whether it is good to be published, good for them to publish in this journal or not. The name of the journal is the Empirical Economic Letters.
Empirical economic letters.
Empirical Economic Letters.
Let's see if it is there. First of all, on okay, empirical economic letters. Empirical economics is there. I don't see. Let me go and see on Web of Science publication title.
We can't see your screen yet.
Oh yes, sorry about that. Yes, can you see empirical economic letters is not there. It is not a Web of Science journal.
Right. I think that clears the question. Now, so there's someone who is unable to see the journal citation report, even though the institution has active subscription. But I think
They are not able to. No, I cannot understand a question. They are not able to see the journal, even though the
citation report, even though the institution has active subscription. I don't think you need an active subscription to see the citation report, though.
No, you do require a citation report. You want to, but seriously, which is the institution? We can have it, right? And if you have active subscription, you will be able to see the citation report.
Right.
Do we
So
have an
I'll
idea what is the institution?
Yeah, I'll request the person to guess. It's Vellore Institute of Technology, VIT.
Okay, so I understand why they are not able to see the citation report over here. Can you hover your, this thing over here? So the person is asking the question from VIT.
Yeah.
The citation report, please remember, is available only for 10,000 records or fewer. And I'll tell you the reason for that. Citations are a function of time. So when I'm looking at the 19,000 publications from Vellore Institute of Technology, I'm basically looking at a quantum of publications which is most probably from from when they started publishing, so 20 years. So obviously there'll be a lot of publication when if I had the capability on Web of Science to do this kind of citation analysis, I would have seen citations from you know, 20 years before. So I would see papers from 2005 being the most highly cited paper, right? Which might not be so important in contemporary research. They are not really relevant. So that's why 10,000. So if this person just goes and see all, let's see for the past 5 years, are they still in the 2000 range? Maybe not. You just need to click and 7,008, you can see the citation report. So this is a limitation, a deliberate limitation of Web of Science, that you cannot see a citation report for more than 10,000 articles at a time. Does it answer the question, Dasha?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. Now, the next question is, someone wants to know, number one, let's say, for example, a person is already on the platform, they have a free ID registered, they want to know what are the additional things that they will receive if they move on to becoming a paid subscriber.
I'm sorry, your voice is breaking. Can you just repeat it again?
Sorry, the person is asking that if they already have a free registered ID on Web of Science, what are the additional things that they can get if they go for a paid institutional subscription?
So if it doesn't matter. So there is no free registered ID. You will not have access to the database until you have a subscription. So a Web of Science ID, I am guessing they mean to say they have a researcher ID, which is just like ORCID. It does not give
Right.
you subscription to Web of Science database. I hope that makes it thing clear.
Sure, absolutely. Now, the next question is on this: how to get the Web of Science researcher ID, and what is the criteria to be fulfilled?
There is no criteria as such to fulfill. If you need a Web of Science researcher ID, all you need to do is just click over here and register. Go to Google, type in Web of Science researcher ID. Okay, and you can go to Publons and create your own ID. Okay, just go and you can register, and this is freely available. You can import your publication through ORCID, and create your own research ID. That's not a problem. But you will not be able to get access to Web of Science database. You will be able to see how many papers that you have which are there on Web of Science, because ORCID has a list of all your publications. So it will tell you. Now Publons ID, researcher ID, will take all your ORCID publications, but the ones which are Web of Science publications. So let me just show you. I'm just searching for this particular researcher. You can see Ashok Patel on Publons. You can see this person cited references. You can see that whatever publications are there on Web of Science are tagged with Web of Science. Okay, so if you don't have, if you have publications which are not a part of Web of Science, you will not see this tag. That's simple. But you can still have your researcher ID with all. Your Publons will show you all your publications, even those which are not there on Web of Science. But if this paper is present on Web of Science, this tag will come. I hope this makes the question clear. The answer clear.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the next question is, how does Web of Science classification? How does Web of Science classify the journal quality Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4 for a particular subject category? Basically, differentiate between the journal rankings assigned by professional forums in the same subject category. So now, how is Web of Science different from, let's say,
so Web of Science is looking at the citations received through the Web of Science platform. Okay, and based on the citations, we calculate the journal impact factor. So basically, what it means, the Q1 means that, let us say in physics, I have 10 journals, Okay, so all these 10 journals, I am going to be all these 10 journals, I will be ordering them by descending order of impact factor. The ones which are in the top 25% by impact factor are known as Q1. So there is nothing to do with other professional forums. Every forum, every different platform has a different way of giving metrics to journals. When you are looking at journal impact factor, there are two things. One, the journal needs to be on Web of Science, either the Science Citation Index or the Social Science Citation Index, as I discussed, and it has to be awarded an impact factor in order to be classified as Q1, Q2, Q3. Okay, so please don't, I mean, and citations, they are coming from Web of Science. Okay, so do not mix it up with, let's say, some other platform, Dimensions or Scopus, or every platform has their own way of classifying journals. There's really no how do I say, apple to apple comparison or mapping. Okay, but what I can say is that obviously a journal like Nature is going to be in the top list in every field. Okay, because citations, there might be a, let's say, a difference of let's say 10 to 15% in the citation count in among different platforms, but still the trend will always be there that the top journals in Web of Science will also be there in other platforms. It's always in a tail end. So Web of Science being more exclusive and more discretionary does not include some of the journals which are there in the lower categories in other platforms. I hope
Yeah,
that
they
answers
just
the
want to
question.
know. They just want to know how is it basically different from the ABDC rankings.
Okay, so how it is different? ABDC ranking, I don't think they are using any kind of citation analysis, or it's more like a qualitative ranking by Australian,
Yeah.
business schools. So it is more restrictive in the sense ABDC is used, I know, very much in India and other countries. But having said that, it's not really a global ranking. The Web of Science's ranking parameters are more subject agnostic, and they're more, I would say, quantitative based on citations. ABDC is not citation. That would be the major difference, I would say. It's more qualitative.
Right.
So let me give you an example. You must have heard in film awards, you have a popular choice award, right, where it's by votes. Okay, so you can be an actress, best actress, because people voted. That's a very quantitative way of understanding. People like a particular actress, they have voted, and they say that she is the best actress, right? On the other hand, you also have something called a critics choice, or you might have by a certain jury. That's very qualitative. Both of them, I mean, is one better than the other? We cannot really say that. Okay, it depends upon the institution. So Web of Science is more of a, it's talking the entire scientific community to see how the citations are performing, rather than looking at small jury of professors and faculty who are voting and saying that, okay, these are the best journals in my opinion. Does it make sense, Disha?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Now the next question is, it would be nice if we can pause your screen, or because your screen is still shared.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Now the next question is, so they want to know how is a research paper or a book chapter published in peer-reviewed journals considered for API score?
What score is this?
API score.
Can you just give me the full form of what is an API score? I'm sorry, I'm losing it out here.
Is anyone on the panel okay to answer that?
Because if I am not mistaken, API score is more like for a score for professors and all, for a ranking score, right? Because if that is the that is the thing, then there'll be different guidelines in based on different, institutions.
I think, Disha, we can proceed to the next question till the author of the question can come back with more clarity.
Yes, and if the API score is what I'm understanding, what I think I'm guessing it to be, if it's the one which is based on self-assessment of a, teaching faculty, then I would say this is going to be dependent upon the jurisdiction, right? So it's the rule of the regulating agency. I cannot say that what is applicable in India is applicable in Sri Lanka, is applicable in Dubai or another jurisdiction. Every country, every regulating agency, every organization has different,
With
parameters.
regard to the, yes, thank you, Subhasri. With regard to the API score, what I understand is APIO PBAS, that is a grading system regulated by UGC of India. That is only for Indian academician, I think. So in different countries.
If it is a UGC score, then UGC mandate says for NIRF ranking of a teacher's assessment, as long as it is from the Web of Science core collection. So Web of Science core collection also indexes conferences and book chapters. So if it is there in the Web of Science core collection, or if it is there in Scopus, they will be considered for getting marks. Yes. So
Wonderful.
the caveat here is book chapter or thing has to be in the Web of Science core collection.
Okay, now the next question is that how to access Web of Science database to do a meta-analysis.
Get a subscription. This is for the Indian researchers only. A lot of Indian institutions actually do have in Web of Science the subscription via the eShod Sindhu consortium. So I really request for everybody who is interested to kind of check up with their librarians that they might be having a subscription and they don't know about it. So there are several consortia in India. You have the eShod Sindhu UGC consortium, you have the eShod Sindhu AICT consortium, and right now they all have subscription to Web of Science. So please check up with your institution that you have an access, because we have more than 250, almost 300 institutions in India that have Web of Science subscription. It's very likely yours might have to.
Might already be there. Thank you so much. The next question is, can law journals be indexed in Web of Science? What is the necessary requirement for law journals to get Web of Science ranking?
Okay, so I think I have talked about this in detail. I will share a journal inclusion criteria essay that we have, a publicly available essay with Disha. But there are the criteria are same. Doesn't matter it's law or hard sciences. The quality criteria are same. So I think we have talked a lot about that. I'll just share. You need to fulfill the 24 quality criteria about peer review, editorial affiliation, your journal bibliographic information being in English, etc., in order to get indexed on Web of Science. So I think the question here, the takeaway that I would like to reiterate here is, these criteria are not subject specific. These are subject agnostic. So it's law or it's English or it is management, they'll still remain the same.
Right. Should we move to the next question then?
Yes.
Perfect. Now, we have someone from Kuvempu University, and they're saying that they have a subscription for the Web of Science
Yes.
database, but they need access for off campus, and I think they are not able to get that from their library, and they wanted to know
Okay,
how they.
so for the Kuvempu campus, please write in to me. I will ensure that we get your, MPL. I have made a note of it. We will get somebody to, reach out to your librarian to enable remote access. So we
Wonderful.
are enabling MPL, multi-product log-on accesses for all people who are requesting for remote access. So today's attendees, if you all have subscription but you require remote access, do write in to us. The best thing is you can write to Disha and she can just pass on that emails and I can collect all of them and send it to the right team
Yeah.
internally.
Absolutely. Right. The next question is how to find out cloned journals. Example, Adalia.
So clone journals are typically known as predatory journals. They are not going to be available on Web of Science. How do you find clone journals? See, I mean the questions are. So here the questions are a little bit, the only way I can say from the Web of Science perspective here is, please go to the master journal list to look at a white list of accepted journals, especially in the Indian context by UGC, also globally, but especially if you're an Indian institution from the UGC context, from any regulatory Indian agency context, please look at the white list of journals of Web of Science.
If I may add here,
Yes.
just for the benefit of attendees, we do have a session on predatory journals and clone journals coming up next month. It's by Dr.
Yeah.
Sumit Narula. So I would really recommend that particular session if you're looking for clarity on how to use your databases to identify predatory journals, to interpret that information correctly. So please do keep a lookout for the upcoming webinar on that. Over to you,
Thank you so
Disha.
much. Now, yeah. The next question is what is the difference between essential science indicators and emerging sources citation index?
Sources citation index is a index on the Web of Science core collection, whereas ESI is a list of subject areas where there is substantial research going on. These are the these are the areas where we collect, we compare articles in order to find the highly cited. So ESI and emerging source citation index is a citation index, a repository of journals, whereas ESI is more about finding the highly, it's like a classification. Okay, it is more like a classification of subject areas to find the your output for finding emerging science trends, etc. It is not a repository of journals. It's more like an analytical tool, I would say, to help you identify the top performing journals or the top performing research areas. So it bases its analysis on the journals which are there in the journal citation report or the journals which have been awarded an impact. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. So
Thank
now
you.
the next question is that how do you find a match functionality work on Web of Science?
What do you mean by a match functionality? We have a match manuscript. We have a match manuscript function, okay, which is there on EndNote Online, where you can submit your title and abstract of your unpublished manuscript, and we will. It's a text mining algorithm, and we will find out the right, things, right? How do I put it? journals for best fit journals for you to publish in, but we don't really have a match functionality on the Web of Science. So I'm hoping that I have understood the question correctly.
Yes. Yes.
Disha, I can see that there is another question on API score. Actually, I have gone through the API score. So there is a gazette by UGC India. So API score is the score in order to evaluate when academics are recruited to the university posts. So there is a circular on that. So how API is calculated. So what are the weightages and all. So you go through that circular and have a better understanding with regard to that. So all the information are there. You can see it. You just Google it. So API
Yeah,
circular.
right. And
So it is by
we are not the right person to comment
Yes.
on that, honestly.
Yes, of
No,
course.
that's a regulatory thing, as I said.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Devasiri. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm not sure if I was able to complete my earlier question. Okay, so I'll repeat my question. The question is, what is the difference between Web of Science and Google Scholar?
Google Scholar is an aggregator. We are a citation database. Simple. It is not a
Yes.
repository. Google Scholar is not a repository. So please do not, confuse it with the Web of Science. So I hope that answers the question. I think we made it quite clear during the presentation also that Google
Yeah.
Scholar is a more of a keyword-based aggregator of all the information. It does not necessarily have only peer-reviewed journals or peer-reviewed content. Whereas this is a citation index, you get citation content, or there is a curation going on. Okay, so this is a huge difference between Google Scholar and Web of Science.
Same question in that flow. They're saying that does JCR and other products of Clarivate analysis calculate the author citation index like Google Scholar?
Yes, we do. So we do give an H index. Okay. So again, please remember H index values will always depend upon the citations that are getting. We are getting the citations that are being received. So the citations that you will receive on Web of Science may be very different from the citations that you're seeing on Google Scholar, because as I said, Google Scholar is not a formal citation in the index. They may double count. Their algorithm is not of that of a citation index.
Right. Now, the question is that citation is factual data. This is the foundation of how you calculate the impact factor. Then, however, how is different impact factors calculated by different agencies, and why do they differ with respect to a given journal?
So first of all, impact factor is calculated officially only by Clarivate. If any other impact factor is seen on a journal, if they're using the term impact factor, you will also notice that Elsevier, Science, SciMago, they have also scores for journals. They call it site score, SNFP. They do not call it the journal impact factor. This is a proprietary trademark. Other impact factors, if they are calculated, they are sort of misleading information. If some other journal uses terms like uh, Cosmos impact factor, global impact factor, be aware that those would be probably predatory journals.
Wonderful. Now, the next question is, what is the difference between indexing in Social Science Citation Index and indexing in Web of Science?
Web of Science is the platform. Social Science Citation Index is one of the parts of it.
Right. The next question is, what are peer-reviewed journals? As in all journals are peer-reviewed. What is the peer review policy?
What is peer review policy? If peer review means your articles are being looked at by other experts in the field, right? So peer review policy. I'm not sure what is the question trying to ask, but um, when I talk about critics, see, all journals should be peer reviewed, but when you have a journal that promises you a submission to acceptance time or submission to publication time of 3 days, and obviously somebody is skimping on that peer review process. Nobody, I mean, it takes time for a journal editor, and here I would defer to Sangeeta. She can confirm that it takes time for a journal editor to actually identify the right reviewer, send the manuscript to them, get their acceptance, and the whole peer review process, if done correctly, takes some time. At least around 2 to 3 months. In fact, there was a Nature article in 2013 about that. So if a journal publisher is claiming that within 2 to 3 days we are going to get peer reviewed, you are absolutely going to get an acceptance. That goes against the grain of peer review, because peer review needs to be an independent process by which an expert will say, okay, this paper makes scientific sense, or the experimentation has been done correctly, statistics are correctly done, ethics have been followed, etc. So on and so forth. So there could be different piece of peer review policy. Sometimes some publishers I have noticed also tell you who the peer reviewers are. They declare it openly on the journal. So I think that is called as open peer review, where the author also knows the identity of the reviewer, and the reviewer also knows the identity of the authors. Typically, it's a single blinded peer review, where the authors do not know who the reviewers are, but the reviewers do know who the authors are. Some journals also follow what they call a double-blinded peer review, where nobody knows. The authors don't know who is reviewing their publication, neither do the reviewers know. So it could be double-blinded, single-blinded, open. Typically, most journals follow a single-blinded peer review process. I would defer to Sangeeta for your.
Before Sangeeta answers the question, I'd just like to elaborate it further. I think the person is confused about whether they should publish in a peer review journal or not. I think it's not limited to just being peer reviewed. There are more things to be considered, because he wants to understand what exactly is a peer review journal. Can he or she publish within that journal? And how do they look at the quality of a peer review journal? I mean, that I think that they're talking in terms of, if they want to publish, what should they be looking at?
No, actually, that's what I think that again, this question is a little off topic of today's session.
I know,
However, just
yes.
to add a little clarity, peer reviews, like Dr. Shubhra, she has already mentioned, you have different kinds of review process, which is basically looking at any submission and deciding what kind of contribution it is making to a subject, is the science valid, or is the research valid. So that is what is basically peer review. It can happen various ways. You have your open peer review, you have your single peer review, or single blind peer review, or your double blind peer review. And in most cases, like we publishers, we always insist on double blind peer review, which means the author doesn't know who the reviewer is and reviewer doesn't know who the author is. Now, in such cases, the chances that the paper is evaluated based only on its merit becomes very high. That's why we prefer double blind peer review. Most journals will claim to be peer reviewed, and which may be true. However, what we are looking for, or what you should ideally be looking for, is a double blind peer review. Secondly, when it comes to publishers like us, we are very strict about the number of rounds a paper goes through to ensure that there is no biasness at any step, any point of the process of publishing. So whether the editor is, reaching out to reviewer on time, is the review process been conducted fairly? We also work very closely with editors on that. So that is just of what a peer review means. And why you will see all journals talking about being peer reviewed. But look for the term double blind where possible. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think we've answered a lot of questions today, and I hope the audience feels that we've been able to answer some of the questions that they've had. Thank you so much for a wonderful presentation and taking on the questions. Oh, I think I'd like to invite for the thank you note. Yeah. I think that's all the time that we have today.
Thank you very much, Disha, and very good afternoon, everyone. I think I'm audible for you all.
Yes.
Okay. We have marked another milestone of this webinar series on writing impactful research program. Therefore, it is indeed a great privilege for me to deliver the vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of Emerald Publishing, Gulf Medical University, Faculty of Management Studies of the Sabaragamu University of Sri Lanka, would like to extend a very hearty vote of thanks to the main speaker of the session, Dr. Subhasri, Senior Solution Consultant from the Web of Science. Madam, it was indeed an interesting and very informative session with all the explanations that you taken real time. So in addition to that, I would also like to express my profound gratitude to the Faculty of Management Studies, Sabaragamu University of Sri Lanka, headed by Professor Atula Nyanapal. Further, I would like to express my special gratitude to Professor Aslam, Chairman, Faculty, Professor Aslam, Chairman, Research and Publication Unit of the Faculty of Management Studies, for their continuous and unconditional support throughout. I would also like to express our senses obligations to regional coordinators for their kind guidance for this event, and also in helping us in strengthening various mechanisms. In particular, the support rendered by Dr. Jayantha Endevasiri, Senior Lecturer, Sabaragamu University of Sri Lanka, Ms. Sangeeta Menon, Publishing Relationship Manager, Emerald Publishing, Professor Sudhir Rana, Gulf Medical University, and Professor Hasib Saeed, Gift University, Pakistan. In fact, they supported a lot in making this program great success. Then, with the gratitude, let me also thank Ms. Disha Laknapal, Regional Marketing Manager, Emerald Publishing Group, for the support rendered in making this program a great success. Then, with a great respect, I would like to thank all the distinguished officials from Emerald Publishing, Gulf Medical University, and the Sabaragamu University of Sri Lanka. Finally, I would also like to extend my sincere thanks to the audience, all the senior professors, senior academics, visiting faculty members, researchers, industry participants, partner university representatives, research students, media presenters, including Sunday Observer and Sunday Times, for their active participation. Thank you very much all again, and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for your time today. Bye-bye.